making this learning interesting, we also want it to be engaging, meaningful, and enjoyable. So we do not go with rote learning at all. All the subjects are taught using the inquiry cycle.
Hi, welcome to Yellow Slate, your very own school search engine which helps to find and understand the schools better. Like to directly start with a question in regards to how does a day look in a primary section in the school.
So, yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share how my United World Academy looks like. So, usually our day starts around 7:45 with our buses arriving, and then we have 9 lessons every day. And out of these 9 lessons, 3 to 4 lessons are core academic periods. Other lessons, we also incorporate the cross curricular and co curricular activities. So, whatever the additional activities or the courses that are offered in UWA, it's not beyond the school hours. So, that's the beauty. That doesn't happen in most of the schools. So, out of those 9 lessons, if children are studying for English, math, science, so along with that, they will have some robotics classes, they may have computer lessons, they'll go for music, they'll go for drama. There are 4 to 5 PE lessons during the week. So during those PE classes, children they get a chance to experience taekwondo, they go for swimming. So that is something very unique about United World Academy. So all the extra subjects or cross curricular activities that is offered, everything is designed within these 9 lessons. And our day ends around 2:20. So the buses leave around 2:20 p.m. So that is how
Okay,
our day is.
great. Now, because we're talking about these primary sections and these are the formative years of any child, so I think it's very important how do we inculcate certain basics in their culture of life. It can be how do they learn, how do they read, how do they write. So I just wanted to make sure, I mean, ask you, how does school, per se, United World Academy as well, make sure that the learning is more exciting in children because these are the formative years. It decides the direction of their life. So if you maybe can throw some light about your school or how does a school make sure that the learning seems exciting or what are the practices that a school should do? If you can maybe throw some light there, it would be great.
So, yeah, as you rightly said, these are the formative years, and whatever we work on now, the children they take it a long way. So, at United World Academy, definitely we are following Cambridge Pathway curriculum, which is academically very rigorous. However, along with making this learning interesting, we also want it to be engaging, meaningful, and enjoyable. So, we do not go with rote learning at all the subjects are taught using the inquiry cycle. Even though it's, I would say, a very important part of IB curriculum, however, Cambridge that does gives us the liberty and opportunity we have that freedom that we can incorporate any learning style that works well with these younger generation or younger group of students. So we definitely go ahead with the inquiry cycle, which is like tuning in, finding out, sorting out, going further, drawing conclusion, and then taking action. Also, whenever we introduce any concept or any topic, it's not that the teacher will straight away say that this happens, this is how it happens. It's not
Okay.
so. We do not tell the children that this is how it happens, this is how it works. Instead, we create environment or we give opportunities to the children to explore that how does something happens, and then we look at a lot of, we do case studies, we read books, we take a look of certain videos, then we share experiences. And the idea behind this is children they develop the concept when they find the similarities which is happening in multiple stages or multiple places. That's how they develop the concept. If something is happening, what could be the reason and why it is happening in different places in the same manner. So that is how the concept is developed. Secondly, we do not focus only on knowledge. So here, our teaching is basically three-dimensional. So it's
Okay.
concept, knowledge, and action. and skill. So we also believe that only questions does not help children learn. So when they understand the concept, they get the knowledge. With the skills that we teach, they apply that knowledge in the real world scenario. And that's how they understand that why it is important to learn certain things. And with my knowledge, what can I do? How does this knowledge going to help me? So that is how our teaching and learning is mostly three-dimensional, which I believe in most of the schools they doing it. However, in primary, this is what we have experienced, that it works really well for us. The
Oh,
inquiry-based approach, it encourages curiosity, and that's how it makes learning experiential rather than passive. So
okay.
it replaces the rote learning with hands-on activities. So a lot of hands-on activities will happen, collaborative tasks will be there, and then there will be a lot of opportunities for the children for the self-expression. So they also develop the skills of how to speak, how to communicate, and then when we give the feedback, they reflect. That also is a very important skills. So that's how the learning becomes memorable as well as impactful.
Great. I'm so glad to hear the practices that you've mentioned, which are essential in a child. But I mean, because you come with a very vast experience that you have in different curriculum and all. So I just wanted to dive a little bit into the curriculum part of the ecosystem that is currently there. And the major concern which a parent currently has now is in regards to understanding these curricula, right? So they have CBSE, they have IB, they have IGCSE. People from IB and IGCSE tend to use these fancy words of practical learning or real life experience, so on and so forth. So, but there is still some amount of blurred image that they have regarding these curricula. If it would be great if you can maybe quote an example and help us. Okay, this concept is taught in this way in CBSE and this way in IB, and that's how it can help your children.
Hmm.
So if you can maybe help us understand those marginal differences between these two curricula, it would be great.
So, as far as I know, that if it is a CBSE school, they have a set curriculum and there is a timeline. Within that timeline, they have to complete a set of lessons or the topics because they have to prepare for the examination. So, in any CBSE school, the goal is to excel in the examination, and that's how the competition is between, not only between the children. The competition is between the parents. That we all know. Even if you don't say, we all know. So the pressure to excel in examination, it takes away the pleasure of learning anything. When it comes to hands-on activities or applying their knowledge in real life situation, I'll give you one example that we tried in our school, and it has worked really, really well for us. So we had something called financial literacy. So money is a very important topic which is taught in all the grades, and money, there is a progression. So every grade they will learn something additional. So it's not only to identify the currency, they also learn how to use the currency. So in most of the cases, there will be addition, subtraction, multiplication of money. Then a step further will be word problems in money. So
Okay.
again, when it comes to word problems in primary school, children, they do practice one step, two step, or three step word problems. When I say step word problems, it means I'm talking about the different operations that are involved to solve those word problems. And yes,
Okay.
again, at a very younger age, children, they just think, okay, when the question is like this, okay, I have to add, okay, I have to subtract, okay, no, 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 if I multiply, I may get the answer. They're not sure why they are doing it, and why, instead of addition, instead of multiplication, can I do repeated addition and still find out the answer. Now here, what we have done is, we designed our this money, the topic of money, in a very different way, where for 4 weeks, it was all about how is the money used. It's not only in the market. What are the banks? How do people invest money? Why do we have a passbook? Why do we have internet banking? Why do daddy always need not give me, cash? What are the different ways of using it? So when children, they look at, they were also very surprised when we started talking about the bank, we started talking about accounts. These terms were new to them, but since these terms were new, they were very interested in learning more about it.
Correct.
So by the end of 4 or 5 weeks, children could actually go and check their parents' accounts, and they could see that, okay, this is how it looks like. This is how the money, when we deposit, this is what happens. When we withdraw, this is what happens. And it also gives them a sense of spending. What is my spending ability? How can I monitor my spending ability? How do I record my spending abilities? How do I record my saving? So these kind of experiential learning really helps. Secondly, I will also like to mention here, when it comes to talk about real world application, it also helps those children who may not be learning at a very higher level, because we do have inclusive schools,
Correct.
children, they
Mm-hmm.
are working at different levels. So for them it may not be very convenient to solve word problems. However, when they go and they start looking at, if you say bank, or if we also set up a market, so when they go to market, they started purchasing things with the money that they had in their hand. So that kind of experience, it actually helped them solve the questions. So that's where children, they understand better, and these kind of learning they will be able to retain. So it's not that they are just memorizing it, they are experiencing it. So this kind of experiential learning definitely works better, and it
Oh,
is a little different than CBSE pattern, because we are not only focusing on assessment, we are
mm.
focusing on learning. So stages of learning. Of course, we also have our way of assessment is little different than what they are doing. We have
Okay.
a
So that was
combination of
actually my
formative.
next question. So how does the
Yes.
assessment happen?
So now we have a series of formative assessments, and then we have summative assessments. So when I say formative assessment, it need not necessarily be a pen and paper test. It can be when any question is thrown in the class, how the child responded to that question. If the doubts were there, and once the doubts are clarified, and if the teacher throws that similar question again, was the child able to respond little better?
Correct.
So, or what are the other ways or methods the child would like to respond? Now, teachers, other than this, it's not only and this is called observation. So
Correct.
we do observe children, how are they responding in the class during any activity. It can be individual, it can be pair task, it can be group activities. So we also assess if the child is able to, being respectful to others. Child understands that there can be different perspectives, how to take the perspectives collectively and then rethink about their own responses. So teachers, they have different rubrics for the observation. We also do project works. So
Okay.
when the project work is given, the entire thing is done in the school. There is absolutely zero involvement from parents, which is again very different from any CBSE school.
Okay.
What parents do for us is send the reusable item. It can be cardboard boxes, it can be plastic bottles, that is all. That
Correct.
everything is done in the class. We do not look for perfection, we look for effort. So when it is formative assessment, their efforts are graded. It's not only the end result is graded. So that's why I said a series of formative assessment. It can start before the lesson, it can happen during the lesson, it will happen after the lesson. So other than formative assessment, we have summative assessment, which happens end of the unit and end of the term. So that is the time when the parents and the students, they will know that what are we going to assess. At that time they can review whatever has been taught. That is called assessment of learning, not
Okay.
assessment for learning. Formative is assessment for learning. So these are the different things that we try.
Great. So I mean, Thank you so much for putting it in the way that you have put. So it is quite clear to so many people. But in the conversation, you actually brought up very important point of this trio: student, parent, and school. Obviously, the three major
Yes.
pillars which are very crucial in a child's future. So we spoke about school till now, and I just wanted to dive a little bit into the parents' perspective of it. So you coming
Yeah.
from a standpoint of an educator, okay, being an educator in a school. So what are the things that you want to set a right expectation to a parent? So what should a parent expect from school, and what should a school expect from parent? So because both should go hand on hand, it's
Yeah.
mandatory because child spends equal time in both places. So if you can maybe give some suggestions or your with your experience, what are the things which parents should expect from school and school should expect from parent? Maybe if you can have a conversation about it, it would be great.
Definitely, definitely. And as you rightly mentioned, this is what the school community is all about. So, school community encompasses student, teachers, and parents. And all, both teachers and parents, they are working only for students. It is
Correct,
only for the well being of students. We also need to remember that a major portion of the time is spent at home,
correct,
especially at a younger stage. Whatever is happening at home, it does come to school. We
correct,
as teachers, we know every ins and outs what is happening at home.
correct.
So it is a very important and very big responsibility of parents to have a very good and healthy environment at home, so
Okay,
that when the child comes to school, the child is happy. Now, we as teachers, we just want a, a decent, I would say, healthy environment at home where child trusts, child can speak freely, child can share that thing, whatever happens at school. So child must talk, parents must talk to their children.
hmm.
Unfortunately, looking at the present lifestyle, parents do
Correct.
not have enough time to spend with their children.
True.
And the children, they are just looking for that, nothing else. So at home, at least spend, say, 20 minutes talking to the child. How was your day? What did you do at school? Something that you really loved doing it, something that did not work well for you. So there are times when these conversation happens, even unknowingly, when the children they share, and parents when they communicate the same thing to us as teachers, we can actually look in those areas, because it is everything is for the well-being of the child, for nothing else. So we
True.
basically work with hands on hands. You cannot think that I'm going to say something which is going to offend. No, we don't do that. We always welcome open feedback from parents. Same way parents should be taking our
Open. True.
feedback positively. That
True.
is something very, very important. It's not to say judge a child or evaluate a child. It is to suggest that from our experience, we feel if this thing can be done differently, it will help your child. So if the parents they take feedback same way positively as we do, it helps the children. Secondly, at UWA, at the beginning of the year itself, during our parent teacher orientation, we clearly mentioned that we do not want parents to do the child's homework. We only want parents to ensure
Assist.
that child has a quiet 20 minutes to 30 minutes time where child can sit and work independently. As a parent, you can just give us the feedback that, say, today my child was struggling. I saw my child was not very happy, or this task was too easy for my child. If that note is given to us, it will help us modify the task that we have planned.
Correct.
Secondly, do not want parents to do any kind of project work or do any work for the children. Why? Because
Okay.
our intent is to make our children independent. We do not want them to be showing somebody else's work. They need to be happy and they need to be proud of whatever work they are doing. And that's the reason, even at school, anytime you visit, my classrooms are open. My entire display board is filled with kids' work. It is not perfect, but every child is happy to see their work going
True.
up on the board.
True.
So, yes, we do have a very good set of parents. They trust our school. And the other thing is transparency. We are very transparent because we personally do not believe in hiding anything from the parents. Whatever happens, however it has happened, and what should we do to improve, everything we communicate in a very transparent manner. So that's how we gain the trust. And it's a vice versa.
Yeah. And because again, you brought another interesting point in the conversation in regards to character building of the child, being independent, being himself or herself. Again, because school days, almost the 10 years that they have, and more importantly, the primary years, like we already spoke, are very important in regards to building a character for the child. And it can be the leadership skills, it can be the other activities that they do, treating people with concern, having that empathy. See, all these most important aspects of life start from schools. So how do you
Yes.
think schools should ensure, what are the efforts that maybe schools will put to make sure that the children are having
Mm.
those capabilities to handle those real life scenarios as such?
So, as far as our school is concerned, we are fortunate to have certain things in our curriculum.
Okay.
So we do not even miss that. I'm not sure if you have heard about that or not, but Cambridge also have a very well structured well-being curriculum, and it
Okay.
is to be taught every week. There are certain things or activities which are planned. Those things need to be taught, and they basically helps child to support their emotional, I mean, social and emotional, as well as ethical development alongside their academic progress. So the curriculum is itself designed in such a way. It has like three, four different components, and then under each component there are activities designed. Now here, when I say activities, it is not again pen and paper activities only. For example, I'll give a role play. If I'm doing a role play, I'll give one scenario and the children are going to enact. And then after their acting, if from there itself we identify what are the things that we could have done differently, what are the things that you did not like. For example, if somebody did not talk to me politely, or somebody was harsh, somebody was not fair with me, I did not like it. So if you did not like it, then that's what we need to implement in our behavior. So I'm just giving an example of it, an
Correct, correct.
activity. So basically, when we follow this curriculum, all our teaching practices, they are designed around that. And it's basically create opportunity to the children to also cultivate essential skills such as empathy, integrity, collaboration, gratitude, and respect. Other than that, there are certain learner profiles given by Cambridge. It's like
Okay.
being respectful, being confident. There are 5 to 6 learner profiles. So we do have to plan our lessons so that every lesson gives some opportunity to the children to showcase those learner profiles. That also gives them a lot of chances. And then we do have some kind of, say, award system or reward system. And that work is also done by the students, not only by the teachers. So
Okay.
they observe their peers, and then end of the day they will come to me that, Ritu, today I saw something which was really good and I want to recommend this child's name for being a wonderful friend, or being a good inquirer, or being respectful. So even when they are playing or they are outside the classroom, they are still mindful about their behavior, mindful about others behavior. So definitely the way teachers behave in the class, the way we create an environment in the school, all those things the children they observe. If I say
Great.
that I scream and I say don't shout, I don't expect my
It
child
doesn't.
not to be shouting.
Correct, correct,
So
correct,
practice what you preach.
correct,
So if the teachers are behaving properly, children will behave properly. If the
correct,
teachers or the other members in the community, if we have empathy, if we are respectful to each other, children will do that. So that
correct.
way our environment is very helpful, that helps children, develop these
Yeah.
things.
I'm very curious to understand because you've rightly mentioned the importance of teachers are or the way they behave with children or the characters of teachers is more important
Yeah.
for a children because it's more reciprocating. So you being in that leadership position, so how do you ensure that you have better control on how teachers are dealing with children? Are there any systems in place, or how do you ensure that entire ecosystem of teachers is right in place so that children are very happy? Such, yeah.
So as I said, that whatever teachers do, they do reciprocate. Yeah, children follow that. The same thing, whatever I do with my teachers, teachers take it to the classroom.
True,
It's
true.
it's a it's a chain, you see.
Right.
So myself as a leader, I believe in collaborative leadership. So whatever I do, I take my team. So it's a very good culture of mutual respect, and that is what it is driving both staff and the student success. That is very evident in our school community. Whenever I plan anything, any work, definitely every teacher has is given a chance to contribute whatever they feel, whatever they want to suggest, and then collectively we come to a decision. So everybody feels important. Now, when we do this, even if somebody may not be giving a good idea, but they feel heard, they feel valued. And when I develop that culture among my teacher community, the same thing goes
Correct.
to the classroom.
Yes.
Now, whenever and the other thing is, all the students, they are very free to talk. We have that trust. That trust factor makes it very, very important. And again, nobody feels bad about receiving any kind of feedback.
Feedback.
So any feedback is taken in a very constructive manner. That again plays a very important role. So me as a head of primary talking to the teachers, or teachers talking to the children, we do give them feedback on a very regular basis, whether it is right or not so right, but feedback has to be given. It's the same with me. So
Correct.
again, working collaboratively, respecting each other, giving value to everyone, and understanding that everybody is unique.
Right.
Everybody is good at something or the other. We just need to give them opportunity to identify and flourish. That is how
True,
it
true.
is.
It was so well put, ma'am. I'm so glad to have this conversation with you. I think we discussed the various aspects of curriculum, parents, school, children, and teachers. So I hope parents will have certain anecdotes to take out of this conversation and have a fair idea on how school should
I
be, how
hope so.
parents should be, and also fair idea on United World Academy in specific. Thank you so much for your time. It was great talking to you. Look forward to have more conversations like this. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
to you.
Thank you.